IVM.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into a show about crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Here's your smart fact of the day. If I asked you who's the worst singer in the world, it's Florence Foster Jenkins. Apparently, she remains the worst opera singer in the world. But the most incredible thing of it was she had no idea. Isn't that strange? And do you know that Florence Foster Jenkins has something in common with Dhinchak Pooja, Vennu Mallesh, Bhim Nirola, Daimu Kosaka and Tahir Shah, all of them known as cringe pop singers. Hey there, welcome to Smarter with Sid. And this episode, we're going to take a look at why is cringe watching so addictive and so viral. First off, let's try to understand one thing here. What exactly is cringe? I mean, for some, just a professor making an Instagram video, maybe the way in which I make mine, could be kind of cringe-inducing for a student. So, it might be liked by somebody else who's not a student of this professor, but maybe not liked by a student like, not this again. And that, not this again is exactly the feeling that what I'd call cringe. It's probably understood more from a feeling perspective rather than, let's say, a fact perspective. But it is a feeling. It is an undoubtedly straightforward feeling of cringe that all of us have experienced from time to time. And I thought, why do these guys get so many views if they're essentially horrible performers, whether they're singers or artists or whatever it is? And I thought that this phenomenon was worth exploring from many perspectives, from a addiction perspective, from a virality perspective, from a branding perspective, and maybe from the cringe performer themselves perspective. So let's try to figure out each one of these angles, shall we? Let's try to figure out from the performer themselves, right? Whether it's he or a she or any kind of non-binary person trying to make a statement and they're singing or dancing or acting or emoting. Do they not know that they're creating these waves of cringe amongst other people? Now, the more astute amongst us might say, hey, of course they know, but they still enjoy the attention. They still enjoy the attention. But is it the right kind of attention that, any normal human being would want? And now this is where the cringe performers are kind of slightly not normative. Don't confuse the word not normative with not normal. I'm saying that they're not normative. They don't mind the attention towards themselves, even though that attention is towards their terrible singing or dancing or whatever. So these guys, I don't know if they need therapy or they don't need therapy. I am certainly not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I do know that these guys go against the norm. They are certainly people who enjoy attention for whatever attention gives them, and at any cost, including the cost of rubbishing their egos. They're not fragile, these folk. Now let's kind of look at it from an addiction perspective. So from an individual perspective, if I'm kind of looking at cringeworthy content that I'm, kind of binging on YouTube or Facebook or whatever it is, I see it is a guilty pleasure. It's a guilty pleasure because it kind of evokes that weird feeling inside you, but you still feel compulsively drawn towards it. You want to kind of, cower in shame sometimes, but sometimes you're also looking at the audacity of it all and the feeling that, hey, that might be me on some other day, or that is something that I would really love to try doing, but I don't have the guts to do it, or that is something that I would never do, and wow, these are the consequences. Thank God I'm not really doing that, and I did think of it at one point in time, or whatever. So it's scenario building in my mind. It's scenario building, and it is that insane curiosity that all of us human beings have towards content like this as individuals. And I think that that can be very addictive, and that kind of provides a contrast to the mundaneness of our lives, and it makes us just get those quirky moments into the picture so that we can feel safe and nice and normal about our lives again. Well, that's just my view. Maybe there's a research paper in the offing for this, but that is my perspective on the addictive nature of cringeworthy content. But the more interesting thing that comes to my mind is not the addictive nature, but the virality of it. I mean, I might find it as a guilty pleasure watching it or viewing it like a weirdo, but why do I then share it with others? I mean, why does a Dhinchak Puja make the rounds on WhatsApp? And this is a sort of question that I do pose to my students in my lectures. And I think the main conclusion is that because you can laugh at her together. Now, that is really weird, isn't it? I'm going to say that again because it sounds really cruel, but because you can make fun of somebody together, laugh at something together, and basically as a community, whether you're on WhatsApp or on Facebook or on LinkedIn or whatever, say, hey, you know what? This is really funny content. Let's share this because these are funny people. We are not like them. We are exclusive, So while we laugh at Dhinchak Puja laughs all the way to the bank. Yeah, strange but true. But it does create a sense of bonding in a community. The community has certain values which are unstated. And whenever we find content which is contrary to those values, you can showcase it to the rest of the community in order to, be accepted by the community. That, hey, here's a stand-up person within our community who can smile and laugh. Of course, this has racist and misogynistic and all kinds of overtones. And it is not particularly good a lot of times when you laugh at people within the community. But I'm not taking a moral stand over here. I'm taking an observational scientist stand. And I'm saying this stuff happens. Human beings do it all the time. And this is community-driven action, right? And that is what explains its virality. Now let's look at the final sort of angle that I'd promised that I'd take a look at you, and that is about brand-driven action towards cringe guys, right? Because these guys are obviously getting their subsistence, a lot of it, or their income from, advertising. Now, how do brands actually feel about their ad being showcased on cringe content? I think, well, it really depends upon the brand and the category, isn't it? There are some brands who just want to have that attention at all costs, and they will go for it. They will go for the cringe content, and they might even go for the cringe content just as a sharp contrast and make some ad based on that cringe content as well. Who the hell knows, man, how people are looking at advertising as content nowadays. It is a strange phenomenon, but brands don't have a uniform view of boycotting cringe. And that might be a good thing. Yes, it does encourage creators to create more cringe, which may not necessarily be a very palatable thing for, sometimes somebody like me on some days. But how does it matter? Brands are happy, the cringe creators are happy, the individuals are happy, and the community is happy. It's a very strange thing. But if 4 stakeholders in this entire game are happy, then who the hell am I to complain? Well, I hope you like this episode of Smarter with Sid. And this is Cringe Theory. Really, Cringe Theory is something that I tried recording as well as a strange kind of rap sort of fest. I don't know what to call it. But I recorded a cringe song myself. And I'm going to release it on Instagram soon. Do follow me there. I'm the Traveling Professor. And on LinkedIn, where I will certainly not put the cringe song, but I will make serious notes of it. On that happy note, see you next time, guys. See you next time. And if you like stuff like this, do go for the IVM podcast stuff. Yeah, they've got some fantastic things going there.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys. Hello everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcasting Network. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ritasha and Aishi speak to gynecologist Sakina Radiowala on the important aspects of the female body, like menstruation, biological clock, infections, and hygiene. Dr. Sakina also answers some crowdsourced questions during this episode. Dr. Siddhant Bhargava, fitness and nutritional scientist, co-founder of Food Darzi, explains how we can simplify our nutrition on The Habit Coach with Ashton. On Smile India, Shifa tells us the amazing story of Dr. Aparna Hegade's NGO Arman. They provide free counseling to pregnant women and new mothers in their local languages. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet talks to Gaurav Agarwal, co-founder of GameZop. They discuss the conduit between game developers and large platforms. And on Hanswani, here's Sushma Munindra's story, Ye Ishq Ishq Hai, Ishq Ishq, which explores how love is perceived differently by two different generations in the voice of Shashwata Sharma. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. We appreciate the word of mouth. And finally, we'd like to thank the sponsors on our network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda Quarter, CoinSwitch Kuber, Slay Coffee, Intel, and Kotak Mahindra Bank. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Come learn and experience the ABCDs of being queer with me, Shunetro,
and me, Farhad,
on our show, Gay BCD.
The two of us take you through our stories and experiences of being gay men in the city of Mumbai and have candid
and sometimes downright scandalous
conversations about sexuality, gay culture, and everything in between.
Catch new episodes of Gay BCD every Tuesday on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get all your podcasts from.